All right, let's continue with concept statements. Just as a reminder that your concept statement is that big idea that you're teaching. And I often think about it as if a student were to walk away with only one thing from this lesson, if they could only remember one thing, which is not what we want them to walk away with more, but what would that big idea be? And that is my concept statement. As a reminder, it's a fill in the blank that you're going to go back and you're going to revisit, and the students are going to complete at the end of the lesson. So you're going to introduce it at the beginning, you're going to teach it throughout, and then they're going to complete it at the end of the lesson. All right, so let's go ahead and look at one. So we're going to write a concept statement for each of these standards. I'm going to do the first one, and then you're going to do the next two, and then you're going to go back and do the one for your standard. So for this one, let's look at it. This is a fifth grade life science standard. So for this one, the students are going to use data to show that plants use energy, specifically light and matter, which we're referring to obviously air and water for growth. So they're going to use data to show that plants use energy and matter for growth. Now, the first thing I ever do when I look at a standard, and this is what you should do every single time, is I break it down to see what it's talking about. So obviously we know they're going to be collecting data because it's saying they're going to use it. And what are they going to be collecting data on? Something that is related to plants using energy in the form of sunlight and something related to plants using matter, air, and water for growth. And so I know that I need to address that when I teach, and that could be multiple lessons. I could have multiple lessons on plants using energy, lessons on plants using air as matter, and then water as matter. Again, the way you do this is going to depend on your students, what their abilities are, and what their needs are. So for this standard, my concept statement might be plants need sunlight to grow. For some students, that is where they are. They're going to be learning the vocabulary word sunlight. That is not in their repertoire. However, there are other students for whom you might have a concept statement that is plants need energy to grow, right? That's important for students to know. And some students are on that level that energy would be their vocabulary word. Now, that could be one lesson that you just teach that, or it could be multiple lessons. And then you might teach plants need air to grow, might be one lesson or three lessons, or plants need water to grow, several lessons or one. Or your students might be at a level that you could teach them plants need matter to grow. And again, you could even have students who are at the level that their concept statement would be that plants need energy and matter to grow. Now, why did I go through all of those, right? Well, because I want you to really understand that it depends on the student. We individualize our instruction for our students. And so if I'm looking at the vocabulary word, vocabulary words, depending on where the student is, it might be sunlight, it might be energy, it might be air and water, it might be matter. But what I do want to make sure that you see is how this all ties in to that KWHL chart. So if we go back and we look at the standard on energy and matter being needed for plants to grow, with the KWHL chart, you may start with what do you know, or you would start with what do you know about plants, or what do you know about air and water? And so for me, I might say, I know that my plants in my house, I have tons of plants, are beside a window, or I know that I water my plants every week, or I know that some of my plants are in water, the ones I'm propagating, or some of my plants are in water while some of my plants are in dirt. So again, depends on what your students know, and if your students know nothing, you can provide them with that knowledge ahead of time by having plants in the classroom and having them water them and putting them on the windowsill. And then the next thing I would do is that I would make sure that I ask my students, what do you want to know? Now, I'm going to know ahead of time that I want them to know X. That's going to be part of our lesson. I want them to know that plants use energy and matter. And I'm going to have that there. I'm going to prompt them for it if needed. And I could also have it among choices, right? If I present them with an array of three different options. But I also want to say that if a student asks a question that you did not anticipate and it is related to plants, let's make sure that we write that on our KWHL chart because that's important and we want to make sure that we check into that and then get back to the students. And then next on our KWHL chart is how are we going to find out? Well, how are we going to find out? We're either going to do an experiment, for example, where we put some plants in sunlight and some in a dark area. And then we're going to put some plants in water and some that don't have water, for example. So we could do an experiment, or if we don't have access to that, we could do an investigation. And we could do an investigation by reading books, by watching videos. Think about the power of like time lapse videos. And then you always want to make sure that your concept statement is right there with your KWHL chart. You are going to post them together. All right, so for the next one, here's what I want you to do. You're going to write this one. We're not going to do it together. You're going to write it. This is an eighth grade Earth and Space Science standard. So this is the essential element. The students are going to use information to describe the relationships between regional climates. So regional might be an area in the north, like Montana, compared to someplace in the south, like Georgia. So you could compare the climates there. Locations on Earth. So what is you could compare like weather in the South Pole to weather in Florida. Geographic features. So maybe what you're going to do is talk about the relationship between a mountain and the top part of a mountain having snow in the winter, but the bottom part not having, or a mountain in the winter having snow on the top, whereas in summer a beach has no snow and it's warm, for example, because you would talk about weather. So write a concept statement related to any of those. And here's the thing, I give you permission to put the essential element into ChatGPT. Do not ask for a concept statement. Number one, it doesn't know what you're asking for, and don't ask for the key vocabulary. But what you can do is you can ask, what is this standard about? And you can say that. Can you tell me what this standard is about and give me examples? And so in those examples, that might help lead your concept statement. All right, so go ahead and stop the video, write your concept statement, and then come back. Oh, sorry about that. All right, now let's come back. I welcome you back. I look forward to seeing your concept statements. Let's do another one. So this is a 12th grade life science essential element. And so what the students are going to do is they're going to use data to support a claim, and we'll learn about claims later, but to support a claim about how group behavior affects individuals and species chances for survival, to survive. And so here's an example where when, elephants circle around their youth to protect them when there is danger present. So you can think about individuals, so humans or species, and how do they change their behavior to help their young survive or to help each other survive. And again, this is going to be a wide range of responses because you're going to individualize it to what the student that you've made up in your head. So write your concept statement and then list your vocabulary. And let me show you, go ahead and do that and then come back. All right. All right, so we're going to do one more, and I do want to show you specifically how I want this one to be formatted. So I want you now to go look at this at your standard, the essential element that you chose to hopefully teach, to look at that standard and then decide what your lesson is going to be on. It can be on the whole standard if that's appropriate for your students, or it might be on a portion of the standard if you need to break that down. That's a complex concept and you need to break it down into more teachable and manageable steps. So what I want you to do is to write your concept statement for your standard, hopefully again for your project. I want you to identify key vocabulary that is going to fit in those fill in the blanks, that version of your concept statement. So this is what I'm looking for in this format. So here's an example. The blank and the blank are in the sky. That's going to be the first thing you do. Write your concept statement with blanks. And then the sun and the moon are in the sky. That's your concept statement as a whole. And then finally, write your vocabulary. And in this case, it would be sun and moon. So go ahead and stop the video. Write the concept statement for your science essential element. I'll see you back in just a second. All right, now that you are back, I just want to do a quick check-in. How are you feeling? You know, as always, you're here. Just keep on rolling here. You might just be like, hey, I'm doing pretty well. I don't have it all, but I feel like I'll get it in class. And if you don't, you're going to come back and let me know. Or I'm completely lost. I have no idea what we're talking about. I am asking you to put your questions on your discussion guides, not in your participation anymore. Put it in your discussion guides. Email it to me, ask in class, stay after class, meet me before class, schedule a Zoom meeting with me. I'm happy to answer your questions anytime because questions are important. And when you ask those questions, you are growing as an educator, okay? So I'm always open to questions and always happy to help you. All right, everybody, I'll see you in the next video.